get this show on the road. So let's go up here, and we're going to start today with the wonderful Hailey Temple talking to us about how to master remote collaboration. So my name is Mark Garner. I am from the Design Sprint Academy. I am for communities and partnerships, and yeah, that's enough about me. If you don't know about the Design Sprint Academy, we're pioneers in the field of design sprints. We've been constantly kind of testing and improving that methodology and just running it with a load of different innovation contexts. So this particular part, what we're doing here is part of the Design Sprint community of practice. And it's kind of an opportunity where you can, hopefully we can give you a bit of creative confidence and get to know a little bit more about the design sprint, the design sprint process. We normally do these meetups in person. Yep, we'd normally be doing these as a live meetup where we run them in London and Berlin. They're part of Google's Sprint chapters. And we run some groups around the world as well, which is why so many, well, quite a lot of you have been joining us today. So we have some pretty amazing groups. We've got everywhere from China, Costa Rica, Dubai, India, Kenya, Mexico, Netherlands, Romania, Scotland, Switzerland. I'm sure I've forgotten some there. Aberdeen and up in Scotland. So yeah, anyway, we've got lots of groups that we're helping to also support to understand about the design sprint process. But you didn't come here to hear me talk about that. You came here to get some answers. So the person who's got the answers today, thankfully, is Hailey. So Hailey Temple is a service lead at Mural, an online company, a distributed company, so they know what they're talking about in these challenging times. She's been helping teams of all sizes to embrace digital first and visual collaboration. She's a seasoned public speaker, design facilitator, storyteller, and instructor who's passionate about creating change in business through collaboration and human-centered design. Now, we love what she has to say, and I'm sure you will too. I am going to stop sharing my screen. And I will just, this is so great about this. I just get to pass it over to you. And,
yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, thank you for having me, and thanks for joining from all over the world right now to come together and talk more about collaboration from anywhere. It's a very timely topic for us, of course. So I'll go ahead and share my screen now. Here, let me know when you can see it.
Yep.
All right, wonderful. So thank you for having me again, everyone here from around the world. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about online meetings and making them with purpose. But before I do, I realize that a lot of us are coming into this session. Maybe it's the end of your day and you're feeling a little bit fatigued from one too many online meetings, or maybe you're starting your day and you just had to get your family ready for work and that was a little bit hectic. So I want to have just a quick moment for us, wherever you are in the world, to just take a deep breath and center ourselves. So if you'll join me, close your eyes real quick. I'm going to close mine. And let's breathe in and out. And just let your feet sink into the ground or sink into that chair you're sitting in right now. Roll your shoulders back a little bit. And take one more deep breath. All right. And go ahead and open those eyes again. All right, thanks for joining me. I think it's helpful to have a mindful moment here before we jump in and get started. And that's because we're right now in the middle of this great experiment, right? Mark and I were talking yesterday and a little bit this morning about how we wouldn't, if someone asked us to do a design sprint for 5 days or a problem framing workshop, and they said, you know what, we can't meet in person, let's have us all to get together remote, we'd probably say no, right? It sounds crazy. But now we're in this state where all of our meetings have to happen online, we're all remote, and the fact is we can't be together in person as much as we like to. And a lot of us, especially in the United States, have this mandate for social distancing where we can't be together. We can't even really be in the same room with other people or the same building. And our role as facilitators and hosts is to help people continue to be social at a distance. And of course, you'll see lots of people having online cocktail parties or fun events, but in a work context, we still need to keep people social because social connections help us build trust, and they help establish these connections that are essential for us to drive innovative ideas. I know part of the Design Sprint Academy is we want to help people think about innovative ideas. We want to solve complex problems, and we want to break down silos. And if there isn't somebody there to help build that trust, create those connections, and help people have meaningful conversations from a distance, then that's not going to happen. And the fact of the matter is we can't stop making that happen. Design sprints aren't going to stop. Problem framing sessions aren't going to stop. Innovation cannot stop. So today, what I want to talk about is how we can take our practice around facilitation and collaboration and evolve. We have to evolve our mindsets and our methods and how we bring people together to have those meaningful conversations. And so today I'm going to take you through 5 different ways that I have taken my practice with online facilitation and translated it into an online world. But before I do that, I need you to let go. I need you to let go of the feeling that online meetings are kind of the ugly stepsister to in-person meetings, because they really do have a place in this world, not only in this strange new normal of a pandemic where we can't be together, but in lots of different ways, as we've mentioned, reducing travel and helping us come together when being in the same room just isn't possible. So if you're ready to evolve with me, let's talk through these 5 different principles to think about. First of all, let's talk about why we're really meeting online. One of my favorite books is The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker, and she opens the book with a simple question. Why do we gather? It's simple but really powerful, because depending on that response, you know what agenda you need to design to make that happen, who needs to be in the room to make those decisions, and how to make a meaningful conversation happen. And just like we need to evolve our practices, this needs an evolution as well. We need to think about why we gather online. I never thought I'd say this, but we have to gather online right now because there's a global pandemic, right? We can't meet in person and connect in the ways that we used to. But if you think about it, there are other reasons we've had to connect in this way before. Maybe it's because of the lack of travel budget, or because there weren't enough meeting rooms for people to meet at in the office. Whatever your response is or your why, you need to think about and ask that question for any online meeting, because it'll help you design an experience that considers the needs and the mindsets of the people who are going to be in that digital space with you. Think about where we are right now. We have people who are feeling frustrated because they have to figure out all these new tools to have a simple stand-up meeting, or they're worried about their loved ones getting sick, or they have their kids running around the house while they're trying to have a meeting and get stuff done. If you think about where people's minds are coming into this meeting or exiting this meeting, then you can design an experience that considers those needs. Yeah, you might need a little bit more time to get people started, or you might need to take a mindful moment like we did today before you jump into the content. But as if you know why you're gathering online, then you can start to design that experience that's meaningful and purposeful for everybody in the room. Next, you need to keep things short and simple: the methods, the technology, the techniques. We had the luxury in in-person meetings to rely on some pretty simple instructions for people. We tell them to have a seat, to stand up, to write something, to peel the sticky note and put it on the wall. In online meetings, I think a lot of times technology can act as a barrier, it feels like a barrier to effective conversations and collaboration. But I believe as facilitators, it's our job and responsibility to use technology as a way to introduce people to one another and to build confidence. We can do that in really simple ways. So for example, I like to give people only need to know information at the start of the meeting, and that kind of builds a foundation for people to start building confidence with the tools and technology. So for example, I work for Mural, of course, which is an online collaboration tool. And when I bring people into a meeting with Mural for the first time, I say two things that they need to know. That's it. So this is a Mural where you would work, and I say you only need to know how to zoom in and out. And so I walk through that with them either at the start of the meeting, or even I'll take a half hour or 15-minute call before for kind of an intro to Mural session. And then I also tell them you need to know how to add a sticky note like this, as you can see in this GIF here. And that's it. I don't want them to focus on any of these other features in the technology. I want them to just focus on the conversations that we need to have that day. I also like to set up what I call a digital desk for people to collaborate, because if I invited you into this mural, it's really intimidating, right? There's a lot of different places your eye is going and following, but if you see your picture and maybe your name or something like that, it becomes a familiar space for you to work. So I'll put their picture or their name, and then I'll add some sticky notes along here, and I'll tell them, don't worry about anything else right now, focus on just adding some content here on the sticky note, which I taught you how to do, at the start of the meeting or in that intro session. And it really becomes a familiar home base for people to work when they could be part of this crazy limitless mural that's intimidating. So remember, we are brought into design sprints and meetings to help facilitate conversations, not a lot of fancy technology and tools. So when you are preparing an online meeting, think about what are the need to know pieces of information that I can share that will help people get started, but not overwhelm them. And online meetings have a purpose when they make time for play. People need a space to connect and get to know one another, and that's what builds trust in these meetings, right? We need things like breaks and energizers and warm-ups to get people familiar with one another. But they're also a really sneaky, warm-ups, are a really sneaky way to actually get people comfortable with the technology in a low-risk way before you get into the key topics of your meeting. So let me give you an example. Mural has over 150 people around the world working right now. And of course, we're all remote. And when we have our all hands meetings, it looks like this. It's a little bit chaotic, where you have everybody kind of floating, these floating heads in the space. You guys are familiar with how this looks and feels right now. And so how do we get people focused for the meeting and getting some opportunity to connect when a lot of times we don't get to connect with our friends in Europe or our friends in Argentina? So we do a quick warm up like this. We invite people to a mural like this, and for this one in particular, we said, add a picture of your feet, because we're looking at heads a lot, so let's focus on feet. Capture a picture of your shoes, upload it into this mural, and share what those shoes say about you. So rather than just give the instructions here, I wanted to also show them how to do it. So I pre-uploaded and prepared a picture of my shoes. In this case, I was wearing compression socks. And then I put I showed them I wanted to add one sticky note with their name, one sticky note with the reason. And for mine, I said, I'm a 95-year-old woman stuck in a 20-something body, and this is what I have to wear for work. So, and then I said, now you try. The team did struggle a little bit, but we did ultimately create this awesome mural with lots of different feet and shoes and socks and slippers from all around the world. And the team did struggle. It did take us some time, but I'd rather it took some time here than later on in the meeting when I needed them to contribute to an important discussion. It was also a great chance to have these great connections and get to know each other. So you can see these hairy feet are not real. We just love trolling each other at Mural and adding people's feet in there. But we also found out that one of our designers, Nadia, actually makes her own shoes, and she wants to sell them one day as part of her own shoe brand. And when else would we have had the opportunity to learn that? So make sure that in your meetings, you're giving people a moment to connect and build that foundation of trust and some comfort with the technology. Online meetings have purpose when they use the time between meetings as well. So I work on a global team, as I imagine many of you do since you're here. And people think, oh my gosh, you must work crazy hours to be able to connect with your teammates. And I say, no, I mean, I have gotten up early on occasion, but we make time work for us. And here's how we do it. So my team recently was planning an event, and we needed to basically kick off a discussion about what this event would look like. So I said, let's get together on a time that's convenient for everybody from across the world and just answer key questions. Why are we having this event? Who would be the ideal attendees? Who would be, like, what activities would we do? So we had that discussion for about 45 minutes, and then within the last 15 minutes, I gave everyone an assignment. I said, by the next meeting, take the kind of these key questions that we answered in real time and use them to build out a concept poster, which is basically your own vision for what this event would look like. And then for the next meeting, we'll take time to review them and get feedback and combine our ideas. So I made sure everyone knew what to do. They had this template they could use, and they knew they had to have it done by the next meeting. In between meetings, we used communications like Slack to share images, ideas, and clarify any information. So for our next meeting, we had another hour-long meeting at a different time where we could all connect. And we did this feedback round. So you can see different magazine covers are here. We're capturing feedback using a method called Rose Thorn Bud. And we were able to use our combined feedback and ideas to create a storyboard that we could share with leadership about our vision for this event. So let me break this down for a moment. There's real-time collaboration. I mentioned those 2-hour-long meetings, and then there's asynchronous collaboration that I mentioned. And what's really wonderful about working with people in different time zones is it can actually be a productivity hack, because I'm saving people time not having to come into a lot of really long meetings, and it's on a schedule that's convenient for them. I also give people a chance to work at a time that they feel most creative. So I might feel really creative in the morning, and Mark might feel more creative in the afternoon. But if we have our own time to work on something, we get things done when we feel inspired or excited by something. So when you're designing meetings for online and global teams, really think about not only what schedule is going to make what schedule is going to work for everybody to be together at their best, and what activities need to happen in real time versus what activities can happen on people's schedules, own schedules, and when they're feeling most creative. Finally, one of my favorite things about online meetings is that they are the place to work visually. Visuals are fantastic ways to clarify concepts and to align people around an idea. And here's why I believe visuals need to be part of every online meeting, and really part of every meeting in a way. First of all, in online meetings especially, people lose their focus and attention really easily. So if, let's say, I invited you into a mural for a collaboration session that looked like this. What does this tell you? So you can see that there's a story I'm telling you here, right? You know, it's something about a chicken crossing a road. You can see there's kind of a flow going through what the steps are going to be in this story. And I'm not saying that everything has to be as graphically rich as this when you're making your agendas, but at least giving people a sense of story and place really draws people in. They want to know what's going to happen next. They feel engaged and wanting to be part of building that story out with you. I also love using visuals to show rather than tell instructions. So I use GIFs or GIFs, what some people call them, but that's peanut butter, I think, to tell a little bit of a story. So instead of me explaining what to do in the tool itself, GIFs are a really great way for people to understand what they need to do during an activity. I also love that visuals work well across devices, because we really, in an in-person session, we have the ability to know someone's going to be able to see this poster I put up, but we don't have control over that anymore, whether we like it or not, to where people can log in and join our meetings online. It could be a tablet, it could be a phone. And so visuals work really well across devices. you might be familiar with the Lightning Decision Gem exercise, and this is a fantastic visual analogy that works really well across different devices. So when someone joins from a laptop or a phone, they'll still be able to follow that story that we're creating using this activity. So I truly do believe that meetings are stories. We get to create stories for people, and they're kind of the characters that we get to build this story out with together. So you have a choice as a facilitator. You can make your meetings like kind of a boring textbook, or you can make them this beautiful, rich, graphic story that has visuals that lead people through an experience. All right, so those are my 5 tips, and I think you'll find they're not revolutionary, right? I'm really taking what I've seen and noticed from what makes meetings engaging in an in-person experience, and now we're shifting it to adapt to an online world. So next time you are in a meeting, it could be tomorrow, it could be something later on today. I want to challenge you guys to ask that question, why are we really meeting online? And think about how you're going to respond to that question when you're facilitating your own sprint or your own meeting. I hope that you keep it short and simple, because that way people don't feel as intimidated by the technology, and we're building their confidence to be able to collaborate in the session. I hope you make time for play, that you're giving people an opportunity to take breaks, including yourself. You need breaks every once in a while, but also to give people a chance to build those connections and trust they need to drive innovative ideas forward. I hope that you use the time between to save everyone a little bit more time out of Zoom meetings and more time creating. And plus, being respectful of people's schedules when we're working with a global team. And I hope you work visually so that you can create really incredible stories with people that translate well across devices. So everyone here in this community, I hope that you're ready to evolve with me. And if you have more questions, I'm going to answer them here for you in a moment, but definitely check out this ebook that Mark Tippin and Jim Kalbach, my managers, actually wrote around facilitating online meetings. And I actually published this talk as a blog post as well with a couple extra tips. So go ahead and check it out there. But ultimately, I hope that I've shown you that, yes, it is possible to evolve in your practice and your methods. And if you're ready, let's evolve together. Thank you. That's it. And you're on mute, by the way, Mark. Heads up. Happens to the best of us, including, yeah.
I knew I was going to do that. So there you go. I was like, my mouse was hovering
It
over it.
happens
And
all of the time. No worries.
that was great. Thank you so much. And I think, as you say, I really like there's some brilliant takeaways there. I do think we just spent today running a problem framing workshop with these great guys, Fritz and Rafa in Switzerland. And again, visual board using a collaboration space kept everyone kind of focused because we could see where we're going. But I've spent now 4.5 hours in quite intense workshops, and I think this is where everyone is right now. This is one of the questions that we got asked, that we sent out to the meetup groups, and people have sent those questions through. Please send through your questions on the Q&A as well here and in the webinar, but I'll start with some of the ones that already got asked. So how do you keep up energy levels? How do you keep this engagement going over these long sessions? I mean,
yeah, oh man. I think you have to store your own energy, right? So I think you were saying, back to back to back meetings, I'm not going to be able to sustain myself for that. So I need to be mindful of how much break I need. And there's not a certain formula. I think it comes from experimenting. So taking some time between meetings, and then being mindful of the fact that we are human beings, not machines. So giving people opportunities for break, taking, it looks like everyone's pretty tired. Let's take a deep breath for a moment. Giving people a chance to go get coffee or to use the bathroom. It's just, you have to be mindful of your own humanity, and that's what makes you a wonderful person to collaborate with. So I think it's giving yourself that rest ethic and that rest time so you can show your best self.
Yeah,
in
and
meetings.
I know this was an issue for you. You had a tip as well for stop falling asleep, because apparently you're a legend at falling asleep.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this was such a wonderful question to see. So someone asked about falling asleep in meetings, which I had and still have, well, not anymore, had really big challenges with. I would go into these big corporate meetings with executives and be dozing off. And my boss at the time had to keep nudging me awake, just like, and like pinching and stuff I tried didn't work. So I now will open up a mural while I'm in a meeting and start capturing things with sticky notes, with icons, with sketching images. And it's such a wonderful way to not only keep yourself awake, because I need to be listening very intently to be able to translate it into images and text. It's called sketchnoting, and I can show some examples. But also, people really appreciate the fact that you are taking notes and translating what they meant. Like the active listening is an important part of it's an important skill for a facilitator, but just people appreciate that you have that skill and they'll want to bring you into future meetings.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that for years now, and it's
Okay.
such a beautiful experience. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great way to keep yourself engaged and things like that. Another one where we shifted into more of an area which was, I suppose, quite relevant right now. Um, Trying to keep up team morale when you're remote is kind of difficult, but how to do it
Mm.
in a crisis is even more challenging. So how do you do that? I mean, this you suggested some games. Do you have any other ideas?
Yeah, I mentioned, yeah, the warm-ups and stuff are great. I think we have a head of culture and collaboration at Mural, and she's doing these kind of check-ins every day with asking fun questions. Like on April Fool's Day, for example, she asked, what's something that you believed for a long time and someone tricked you into believing, and then you kind of had to answer in the Slack thread.
Mm,
And even just that little mindful question and seeing all the responses helps build connections with people that we definitely miss when we're not in person in the office. So you definitely have to be more intentional about it and talk to your team and see what works in your culture. But having some sort of intentional activity before the meeting, between meetings, helps people feel connected. And also, like, just being open about the fact that, yeah, I feel kind of crappy today. Like, I feel sad, I feel stressed, I feel angry. Like, that kind of stuff is vulnerability, and humanity is what makes us wonderful. So, being open about that and not being everything's fine while, there's a fire
yeah.
burning around you. I love that meme, but yeah,
Yeah,
kind of that.
I totally agree. I think when this whole kind of crisis started sort of unfolding, we had a couple of team meetings within this global group. And if anything, it brought everyone so much closer together by having these conversations, which were, it crossed over. It was no longer about business. It was a very personal level. But I think
Hmm.
that needs to come in slightly in order for us to realize the person on the other screen is also a person, and we get to understand them a bit more.
Exactly.
And then we're going into there's some questions here which I thought were really good. We could sort of pitch into them as well.
Please,
Which is
yeah.
going into, I'm looking at the Q&A as well. Some of it is going to be definitely, you had another thing, one thing we were going to say, if all these questions we don't get to them, we'll certainly, maybe you'll tackle a few afterwards you offered. So,
Yes,
okay.
yes. So I have and I'll share it with you. It's called a Mural Minute. So I've been basically doing this experiment. We're answering questions about collaboration in a minute or less, and sometimes they go over, I'll admit, but I'm going to work through these questions as part of Mural Minute as well. So I'll share the
Okay.
link to that
So in
in the
case we
chat.
don't get to everything.
Yep,
But
yep.
one of the things with the other people, we're shifting into that whole thing where you are the person, you are the facilitator, you're online
Hmm.
and you're going to have this group. How do you manage? I mean, we have this in person, but it's more of a challenge on online meetings. How do you deal with people talking and talking over each other and who's going to talk next? And there's that gap.
Yes. So I try and do a better job about uh, taking turns in a way where, how I had that digital desk set up and I had those people in a row. And so I'll pick people to start, and I'll say, we'll pick Mark, you're going to go first, and then we're going to go down the row. And then, or even another one. And so that way you eliminate the risk of people talking over each other. And I think it's also important to time box that, because if I said to Mark, like, Mark, go ahead and share your first thing, and then you take 5 minutes to share that. Not that that's you, but that every meeting has somebody. So you'll say, everyone's going to get 1 minute to share out, and then we'll have the discussion after. That reduces that awkward, like, no, you go. So you have to be more intentional about that online.
Yeah. There's a question here as well about how do you reach consensus in a meeting? How do you facilitate a decision-making process? That's quite a big one, but there's some great tools and processes for that, reaching consensus.
Yeah, so there are a couple of fun ones. I mean, I think doing a quick voting exercise is a great way to do it because it's fast, and then you don't have to, that's not the final decision. A vote is just a great way to say, okay, where are we? And then, like, let's discuss why, or if someone's an outlier, why are we doing that? I also really love the importance difficulty matrix as a great decision-making exercise. And in Mural, we have this fun way of doing it. Where you kind of like hover your cursor over the area where you believe the idea or the concept belongs. And I think there are even, like, for example, we use icons in Mural to show you approve or disagree with something. So even on camera too, I'll say, you know, thumbs up if you agree with this idea, or thumbs down or if not, and then open up that why. So there are some really great visual cues you can do to help create decision or to show disagreement, and then open that up a little bit too.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's one of the things with you have to be a bit more visual. Even when you're behind the other camera, you've got to show people, do you get it? And it's like, yes, or thumbs up. It really helps to be more visual and more aware that someone just a slight nod of the head, they're not going to pick that up. You have to really help people to gather that.
And that's why cameras on is a big thing too. Some people don't like cameras on, but it's so nice to almost get like a window into facial. We need those facial expressions and body language to read people. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So another one was about, which I thought is quite a challenge, because in a design sprint process, there is going to be creativity. We want to create a vibe where everyone's kind of exchanging ideas. We come to common ideas, and we really want to get, I suppose, creating that sort of flow state that you have when a group's buzzing off each other. How do you create that within a virtual scenario, virtual world?
I think it's, well, a couple of things. You have to give people some sort of activity to get people feeling comfortable and willing to kind of bounce ideas off one another. So that's why those warm-ups and stuff are really important. I think also being sure that people are confident with the tools and also confident with the instructions, because if somebody's not clear on either of those things, they're not going to get in that flow state. So I always like to explain something. I like to show people how to do what I'm asking them in the tool. And then I pause and say, are there any clarifying questions? Because you can't assume that everyone's set. And I would hate to be that person who doesn't know what's going on. So I think creating that foundation of comfort is really great. And then once I get people then into kind of like a brainstorming phase or creation phase, I do that alone together method where I'll give people, 3 minutes or something to generate by themselves. And during that time, it's pretty silent and it can feel kind of awkward. So I'll play music. And so we have a fun like remote workshops playlist on Spotify I'll play. And then I'll give people time to share out. And that's where I invite like kind of like the yes and mentality. So you'll hear an idea, someone shares it out, and then you can yes and that idea and build on it. So just kind of pulling some of those like techniques you use in person, but making sure you're giving people that foundation of comfort and safety to do it.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Yeah, I think, as I say, those things foster that creativity. But then there's a few questions in the Q&A which then go more to sort of time, like how long should these sessions be? There's certainly one was an optimal length for an online meeting. Any ideas, or do you have any feelings on that? I mean,
Yeah, it's great because some people think, oh, well, online is slower sometimes. It takes a little more time. So should I make my hour-long meeting 2 hours? So short answer is no, because I mentioned people's attention spans are very short online. So if it can be under an hour, that's ideal. And if anything, I would say split a longer session into 2, or if you do need to keep it longer than an hour, give people a break after 1 hour because they need to take care of themselves, they need to use the restroom, things like that. So I would say shorter, sweeter where possible.
Okay, yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. I think having those breaks in between, getting up, stretching your legs, and just shifting your focal length,
Mm-hmm.
and that I found to be quite challenging. There was another one which was which is quite a good one. It's about the technology and disruptions, and
Mm-hmm.
saying, the thing that I've discovered in running these workshops online is pretty much always something will go wrong.
Yeah.
So what do you do? What's your tips for that?
I'm like, I do like a quick little tap dance to distract people. No, so I make sure you have a backup plan. Oh man. So I don't Mural, and it's important to note Mural is not your one all like end all be all tool. It works in an ecosystem of different tools together. So you need to have your video camera, you need to have your messaging tool, you need to have a space to store and share content, you need to have a way to kind of keep track of tasks. And you need to know, okay, if something crashes, if the video conferencing tool freezes or crashes, what are we going to do instead? And so you need to have that ready and prepare the team to know what to do. So, okay, well, we're going to pick up the phone and call each other, or we're going to message each other on Slack. But having those backup plans and communicating them to the team is really essential so that it doesn't freeze the entire session. And it will disrupt, of course, but if you can, as quickly as you can get it back online, having that backup plan is important.
Yeah, it's funny you say that we were running a workshop where we used breakout rooms in Zoom. So the groups all split up, and one of the facilitators actually somehow or other his Zoom connection kicked out, and he was left outside of the room he was supposed to be facilitating. So we had WhatsApp. He like WhatsApp me, oh quick, can you bring me back in? So yeah,
Yeah.
that second layer of communication was vital for things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the final one, sort of, I like this one as well. There was another question about sort of drawing sort of pictures and imagery, and
Mm-hmm.
how you add that to your sort of process. Is there a quick and easy way that you can add an image and things like that?
Yeah, let me open up. I know someone also asked about sketching and like how I do sketchnoting and stuff. So let me see if I can find a cool example for you guys. And okay, this one's awesome. So here, I'll share my screen. Okay, here we go. We did this recent webinar with about complexity. It was this really amazing, like nature and technology, and thinking about complexity and nature, and it was amazing. But basically, these two speakers were talking, Mickey and Diana, and I was doing live visual note capture and stuff in real time. So I added these icons, these little stickies, this text and stuff like that. So you get this really rich textual representation of what the whole conversation looked like. And even like I added a fun little GIF right here and stuff too. But especially in Mural, it's pretty simple to add icons and visuals. We have an icon library. We can also add pictures and GIFs through here.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of just like, I think that the question was specific to like flow diagrams and stuff. So I can add a rectangle and then simply, connect it to an arrow, add another one. So I think as long as you start feeling comfortable with the tool, you can build confidence and invite other people to contribute visually as well. So it's not meant to be just one person talking the whole time and other people consuming. It's okay, how do we all jump in and make this visual together?
Yeah, I think that was a really good facilitation tip I got recently, which was always give people tasks, give people things to do,
Yes.
and it keeps them engaged. But one thing was, there's another question here just from the Q&A, which was how much familiarization, how long do you actually need in order to, start getting people to engage in a workshop? I've got my ideas on that. Let me hear what yours are.
Yeah. So, and it's hard because people are going to be at different levels as well, right? Some people are really comfortable with technology, some people are open to learning it and some aren't. And that's why some sort of intro warm-up activity or even like pre-workshop activity is really important. I mean, if you just focus on, I want you to know how to add sticky notes and I want you to know how to zoom in and out, maybe 10 minutes or so. It's not to say people are going to feel confident. It is truly a process of getting people, of coaching them through it to get more confident. So
Yeah.
it's an ongoing process. But I would say, if possible, like 10 or 15 minutes and then all the way up to a half hour is where you can say, okay, well, if it's going to take longer, and knowing that before the meeting is important, to say, okay, well, actually, I think I need to have a pre-work session with people to teach them how this is done.
Yeah, that's my feeling, is that it's really good to do a pre-work session with a team before you try to do like the serious work. Otherwise, people come to the meeting going, oh, this is the thing that we're going to tackle. And then hold it, the first thing we need to do is learn the tools. And then that already slows things down. So a pre-meeting where you say, this is just about getting to know the team, everyone sharing, and then we can actually also learn the tool at the same time. I'm just really conscious, we're actually running out of time. We've run out of time for these questions. There's so many more questions, but you did say you would have a go at answering a few more. So I was just going to finish up with, yeah, so I think we'll pass all those questions that we've got on to you, and we'll try and get those answered. I'm just going to share my screen. So just let me see 1 second, just so we can finish up this workshop. So let me see. Yeah, I'll do this one here.
And for those of you who are on the call, I'll share the slides after the meeting, after today, with the resources, and we can share the recording. Well, I guess, Mark, I'll leave that to you to share the recording and stuff, but so that way you guys have all of this as reference.
Yeah, so we'll definitely share that this recording of the workshop, and I'll just finish up with saying thank you very much for all of that. We got all the questions. We've got lots more to answer. Yeah, please be sociable if you get a chance. We do these week up. So hashtag Design Sprint Academy, drop something online. Stay in touch. We have got more meetups planned. And just to finish up, all the people who are left here online, just go to the Q&A. And what I'd like you to do is just to, don't send it just yet. Write down one word describing how you feel after this meeting, yeah? And then I'm gonna count down from 5, yeah? And then what I'd like you to do is everyone just at the same time, just post that word and how you're feeling. You got it? You got that, Hailey? Should we try this?
So we post one word of how you're feeling.
Yeah, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about remote collaboration?
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm gonna count down from 5 and then everyone can post. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's see what everyone has to say.
Ooh, this is so fun.
What did everyone have to say? Sleepy, marvelous, giddy, anxious, prepared, confident. So if you're not, yeah, well, we'll have to speak to confident, excited, informed, motivated, happy. Okay, well, anyone who's not feeling too, we'll find out who they are and less scared. Hey, Mark, I'm happy to hear that. So I hope that we've managed to get some of you feeling a little bit more excited, a little bit more open to trying remote. And I would say one of the big things that we've discovered, there are advantages. There are some serious advantages to running a remote session. So anyway, thank you so much, Hailey, and thank you to everyone for joining us, and goodbye. We'll see you at another one. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.